Okay, at 7:01, we'll bring this zoning commission meeting to order. Lauren, if you could do roll for us, please.
Yep, everyone is present.
Thank you, Lauren. And we have another Lauren here that's going to do our public hearing. So that's first up on our agenda. So Lauren, if you wouldn't mind opening the hearing.
I do.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Matt, you want to take over?
I sure can. We're having a open hearing this evening. Of course, I have the date wrong at the top, so I'm surprised. Oh, only I get to see this, so it's okay. Anyhow, we're having an open hearing for a amended development plan for the property at 42 West Columbus Street for the construction of a small car dealership. The current zoning classification is planned commercial and office district and is subject to Article 18 of the Village Zoning Ordinance. The subject lot is 0.107 acres in size and will be developed into a vintage-style service station that will function as a classic car dealership. The applicant seeks to include several amenities that can be used by residents and visitors free of charge, air pump, picnic area, stuff like that. The applicant has committed to working with the Planning and Zoning Department, Village Administrator, Village Engineer, and neighboring property owners to address all issues with site access, parking, etc., to achieve an approved project that will help improve safety, parking, and aesthetic concerns of village staff, residents, and fellow business owners. Mr. Hollis has expressed his desire to be a good neighbor and not just shoehorn in a project that is less than ideal for the village. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hollis, thank you for coming in. You're welcome to come up to the you were kind enough to come in last month with zoning and present your concept plan. You're welcome to provide any updates from the point that we discussed last month or whatever you'd like to present. I did have two to-dos from the commission last month, and I'll share one of them now and the other one later. But there was the question of whether or not Mr. Hollis could operate off of the old development plan, the 2012 plan, or whether he would have to start over, and that was confirmed by Ken Molnar that he can use the existing plan. So that's what you're operating from, I assume.
Great. Yeah, that
Thank
is
you.
exactly what I submitted.
Great.
Was amended based off of that. All right. Well, since we may have some folks that weren't here last week, I think I'll kind of take it from the top, but I'll keep it a little high level, and then we can certainly open it up for feedback and questions, after that. So my name's Matt Hollis. I am a father of three. I've got an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an 8-month-old bonus baby. And I live in nearby Harlem Township. Professionally, I have a degree in mechanical engineering, but I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I've started several businesses and sold several businesses, mostly dealing with waste management, trash, and sustainability, but also in the restaurant and real estate spaces. And so on the side, as a hobby, whenever I would get stressed, I always wanted to buy and sell cars. And so I've been curating cars for people for about 20 years, selling various different kinds, mostly classics or what I like to call future classics, cars that might not be meeting the 25-year-old designation, but have something unique about them, so to speak. And so what I'm really looking to do is give you guys a little bit of background about the property that I purchased in 2023. And then bring you up to speed on to where it sits today, and then talk a little bit about what it is that I'm hoping to do with that property. So from a background perspective, there have been several prior development plans that have been submitted on this site. I think what we'll do in the interest of time is just keep it to the most recent one. The most recent one was filed in May of 2012, and via that development plan, the property was split into two separate parcels. One that is owned by Kingfisher Cape LLC, which operates Coldwater or is in conjunction with Coldwater Consulting. And then the second one, which is now owned by myself as a vacant piece of property. So that development plan, I did a public records request, dove through in the archives, tried to learn as much as I could about what exactly is included in that development plan and what is approved in that development plan. And so what I did in the first part of my amended development plan was just kind of give an executive level summary. But Matt, can you pull up the approved site plan PDF that I sent you so that we can put it onto the screen? So under the May 2012 development plan that was approved, it's essentially allowing on my parcel or parcel 2, a 3,585 square foot retail facility to be built. They have a 0 lot line setback all the way around the building with both building space and concrete space. They got variances for 0 on-site parking spaces as long as there was something in conjunction with the neighbors to create 5 new public parking spaces along West Street and make a developer contribution towards additional parking on Harrison Street. So in doing that research, there was some question as to whether or not that plan was still in full force of effect and approved. I did find a letter from Mayor Tom Hopper in 2018, several years after the plan was approved in 2012, stating that it was in full force and effect, and then the to-do for the zoning commission was to have Ken Molnar, the village solicitor, issue an opinion of which he said it is in full force of effect. So what we're starting with is a ground, like we're not starting from ground zero, I guess is what I'm saying. We're building off of all of the work that's been done on this property to date. So personally, when I acquired the property, I was not aware of this development plan. I did not know that that was out there and that it was approved. I knew that there were several attempts that had been done unsuccessfully. And so in doing all of the digging, I came up to speed with what's there. And personally, I don't think that that fits the best with the village of Galena, what's been currently sitting and approved. So it's my goal tonight that I wanted to come out and essentially amend that development plan to fit what my view of the property might be better suited for. So it's my goal to take it from 3,585 square feet down to just 1,040 square feet and build a very small building on the property to serve as a vintage service station to support my business, Hollis Motor Co. And Hollis Motor Co. is an automotive studio that ignites passion by connecting enthusiasts with the right vehicles, essentially. And so by doing that, what we would do is recreate a 1953 or 1950s Teague-style box Texaco service station on the property. I found blueprints to an old Texaco service station online. I bought those blueprints. And then I started to do some deep dive research on oil companies in Ohio that were period to the 1950s. And I found that Gulf Oil was one of the ones that was big at the time. And their color scheme is a white, a navy blue, and an orange that I felt complemented the village better than stark green or bright red or something to that nature. And so I am going to, my goal is to recreate this 1950s vintage service station in Gulf Oil branding and then provide that as the basically headquarters for the classic car dealership. If you don't mind, Matt, could you switch to the proposed site plan PDF that I provided? So my intent is to take the existing site, and after feedback from the informal presentation last month, I had several informal development meetings with the village, including the village administrator, the village engineer, and the zoning inspector, to try to come up with a solution that would work for everybody. So as you guys might recall, when I last proposed this concept, I was proposing a 20-foot wide driveway coming off of West Columbus Street. And I would need a divergence for that because it wasn't 100 feet from both intersections. And there was some question as to sight lines, safety, traffic concerns, et cetera. And so in several meetings with the village, what I've determined is that an entrance off of West Columbus Street is not only not feasible, but it is just not safe for anyone involved, including the village or any of the patrons of my business or my business itself. And so what they said is they said, hey, we would really like to see you come up with a different way to access the site. And so what we resolved is that instead of coming up with a public driveway that's 20 feet wide with 2-lane traffic, instead we would propose a private access point. This is different than a driveway because it is locked, it's gated, and it is really only for use by the property owner, that existing tenant, and or their invited or bona fide guests. It is not something that can be heavily traveled. It's not something that can be easily accessed. And so because of that, it would be an ideal situation to be able to put that on Middle Street. I'm going to walk over to the screen just to point out a couple of things.
Matt, you can use the mic right there.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah, there'd be no access. 100%. So again, you gotta, yes, 100%. Because it's gated and locked, there's no way to get into that. There's no real even way to turn into it because it won't look like a driveway in the way that we were envisioning it with the village engineer and administrator at the time. A couple key points that I want to make is that directly to the north of that private access driveway is a fire hydrant. And because of the fire hydrant, there's already a large no parking zone on Middle Street. And because of that large no parking zone, it actually allows for about 9 feet in width due to the parallel parking spaces in front of the neighboring business, as well as all of the space down Middle Street to the stop sign to almost act like a double lane, which allows anyone that's using that private access point the ability to go around the square, come south on Middle Street, pull into the hatch marks, and then turn into that private access point without causing significant disruption to traffic. The conditions that I was told that I would need to abide by, which I accepted, is that private access point would be a left turn out only. So there'd be no way to come out of the private access point, turn right to the stop sign on Middle Street, and then continue to West Columbus. It would be pull out, turn to the left, go around the square, and go from there. Square's not that big. I like driving. I think that's a slam dunk. So I was totally good with that. The other thing that we did is because it is a private access point that's gated, locked in for the sole use of the property owner, we were able to reduce the width down to 12 feet. And with the 12 feet, there was significant margin. The property line on that side is a full 24 feet. And so by reducing it down to 12, we were still able to keep it, relatively far away from the stop sign. I guess it's also one of the goals of the village that stop sign be relocated due to visibility issues. And so what the village engineer was saying is that they'd be moving the stop sign further down towards that intersection anyways. And so what this then creates is a very limited special use access drive that minimizes the traffic impact. And one of the things that we looked at in the 2012 and subsequent earlier plans, there was a full traffic study done on West Columbus Street and on Middle Street that I updated based on the international traffic standards for a car dealership. And based on the international traffic standards for a car dealership of my size, it's expected to generate 31 vehicles per day. It's my real world experience that that's not going to happen, but when you run 31 vehicles per day against the traffic on Columbus Street, which is estimated to be 2,500 vehicles today, it's considered de minimis. But that is only based on a 2-lane, 20-foot public access driveway. So it's my estimation that going to this private access point will further cut down the 30 vehicles per day, or however many of that was, significantly to the point where it's again, extremely de minimis. We're also then moving that private access point to Middle Street, which is significantly less traveled than West Columbus Street. The other things I want to point out about the site plan that were changes that since I informally presented it, was that the village said, hey, Matt, one of the biggest issues that we have in the village right now is parking. We had a lot of discussion about parking at the last meeting. And so, in talking with Tom, he was like, we would really like to see a better parking situation for this facility on West Columbus Street, rather than you fixing parking somewhere else in the village where it's not really conditional to your site. We would really like you to see you fix that parking next to this site. So what we did is we worked collaboratively together to come up with the plan that you see. And essentially what we're proposing is 8 angled parking spaces. And again, this is a concept, but 8 angled parking spaces along West Columbus Street with an adjustment to the sidewalk. In order to make this happen, I'm giving up 2 feet of my space. It's already a really small lot, but I see it as a big win for the village. So I was really happy to work with you guys to give that 2 feet up there, especially since you guys would be working with me on the private access point on Middle Street, which I know is unconventional. So by giving up that 2 feet across 110 feet of my lot, we would be able to basically fit all of this angled parking in there that does not exist today, using the right-of-way that way, pouring a new sidewalk, and then putting in a retaining wall to stabilize the lot with the elevation, etc. The other thing that I heard loud and clear from the last meeting was, hey, what are we doing for the public? What are we doing for the residents of Galena? Are there some things that you can add in there? And so in looking at this, I worked with the village engineer and also the administrator to try to come up with some concepts for some things that would help. And what we came up with is this concept of what I'll call a parklet, which is basically taking the area of the right-of-way in between the building and the sidewalk and basically paving it, whether that be with pavers or concrete or some other type of hard surface. And then installing park benches, potentially a picnic table. We're still working on the dimensions, but I also intend to put vintage vending machines there, and then also a bike. I found these bike service stations where it's all encompassing, where it's got a little air pump and a little lock thing and things that can help you with your bike, to try and make that something that the residents could use. Additionally, I'm looking at procuring a 1950s vintage air meter and doing a free air station like they would do at the old service stations back in the day. And that air meter would be positioned on the corner so that anybody that's parking in those 8 spaces would be able to take that air hose, fill up their tires free of charge, and then put the hopefully put the air hose back. But long story short, what I was really trying to do was come up with some options that would help enhance the residents, with services from that site. A couple other points that adjusted since the last time that we talked there is that, again, everywhere you see the red lines, the heavy red lines, this is now a brick pier and kind of like knee wall. It's a masonry knee wall structure is what I'm proposing. So with the addition of the gate and the private access point, I'm essentially proposing to make the facility secured. So the entire facility is secured. So the only way that a vehicle could come in and out of that lot is through that point rather than driving up over a curb or something to that nature. Given the nature of the vehicles that I typically represent, it's also an attractive piece for me to have a secured facility lot to pull those back and forth into. I then did add a little bit of further clarification on like pedestrian access to the site, the vintage gas pumps, and some of the other memorabilia like the circular golf sign that we're looking to propose.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, you can ask anything you want, Michelle.
So I like the middle street if you can't get back entrance, okay? My question is, cars will be parked on that street, and as you come out, wouldn't a right turn be better? So if they move the stop sign up where it's more visible, wouldn't it be safer to do a right turn out of there instead of trying to get past the left cars, which is going to be blocking your vision? Because we have problems with that now on coming out of Water Street, getting onto Walnut, because the cars are parked there, and you don't have a lot of vision. Like you have to really pull out. So I wonder if you move the stop sign where you want to for more visibility, if it would be safer just to make a nice, quiet right turn.
I'm open to either, obviously.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
But yeah, I would want to defer to the village engineer and administrator as to what the safest was. They were the ones that recommended the left turn only, but I'm happy to bring that back up with
Well, I come out of Water Street all the time, and trust me, it's dangerous trying to go move out there and see what's coming.
I can totally see what you're saying, especially because you have to pull beyond the parallel parked car in order to be able to see. Yeah, I think the bigger concern that they had was the traffic coming off of West Columbus turning onto Middle, that being able to see that traffic by turning left. But yeah, turning right, you're right there.
Yeah,
So,
you stop at the stop sign, you make the same decision as anyone else.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a good takeaway. So
I also have one
yeah,
question
bring it
about.
on.
Oh my.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so with the so I see that you added a pedestrian staircase to it. So since we're doing all sorts of ADA stuff on the square, would the I guess the degrees of incline for the driveway meet ADA standards? I don't know if that would be a Jeff question, an engineering question, or if you know the answer to that.
So in part of the engineering phase of this is to come up with a grading plan for the lot.
Okay.
Today, actually, I'm going to walk over to the screen if you don't mind. I'll
Okay.
take my note. So we do have topographical lines on this plan today. What you'll see is that the lot starts
Can you
up here.
can you please return on the mic?
Oh, yep, sorry. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have topographical lines on the plan today, and what you'll notice is that we're at 922 feet here at the very top corner, and then it abruptly goes to 921, and then starts to come all the way down to a bottom floor level of 917 feet. What we worked out with the engineering is that we're proposing that the floor of the garage actually be at about 919 to 920 feet. and so that the actual fall from the front to the back is only 2 feet over 100, which would be ADA standard. That is the reason that we're not putting any type of ADA access here, is because the height difference between the sidewalk and the actual facility could be as much as 3 feet.
Yes. So what I'm wondering is, with the driveway, I'm assuming you guys will figure out a way to get the elevation shift from the sidewalk into the property, if needed, into whatever the correct ADA range is, right?
Yeah, so coming up around this corner, this sidewalk is actually at the same elevation
Okay.
all the way across. There's no difference once it comes to
That
the
answers
driveway.
my question.
Yep, 100%. Great question. So, well, so again, the key differences that we made in this plan was moving the access of the facility from West Columbus Street to Middle Street via that private access point. We also created parking via this plan that creates 8 parking spaces on West Columbus Street instead of the 5 that were there now, but also that's different than the 2 that we were proposing to remain, 2 deleted for the driveway, and Mayor Jeff said that they wanted 1 deleted for stop sign visibility. The other thing that this plan allows them to do as the village is to be able to move the stop sign on West Columbus Street further into the road via the hatch marks there, which was a safety goal that the village had. And so again, working collaboratively with them to accomplish all of that. As far as divergences are concerned, the stated legal divergences that would be required for this plan is to have 0 on-site parking spaces, which is actually a divergence that is already approved in the existing plan. And so I'm just looking to not amend that divergence or re-request the divergence for 0 on-site parking spaces. The other 2, the 0 lot line and the driveway at 100 feet, I was advised that those are not true divergences because it's not considered a parking lot anymore, and it's not considered a public driveway. But I do want to point out that those site features still do remain. So in other words, I'm still looking to take that asphalt within 0 feet of that lot line, and I am still looking to put that private access point at that position on Middle Street, close to the intersection. So I have thrown a lot at you. Before I go into basically what my follow-ups were from the last meeting, I just wanted to pause and see what high-level questions do you have, what feedback do you have, what questions in general there are.
Thank you, Matt. Couple of questions. This being a lot, do you have lighting requirements that you have to adhere to?
For the car dealership?
Mm-hmm.
No, there are no lighting facility requirements for a car dealership. That's just what most car dealerships do. My goal, and I put it into the development plan, is I love low-level illuminated landscape lighting. And so it's my goal to use that low-level illuminated landscape lighting to integrate into that knee wall that's around the parking area,
Right.
and then also to uplight or downlight the building in a tasteful way. There is 0 plans for a large pole fluorescent LED, lot-based lighting system. In fact, my goal is really that when you're driving by, you're not 100% confident it's a car dealership.
Great. The paving up to the Fountain Building, does that go all the way up to the building, or is there some buffer there? It's hard to see on the map.
Yeah, so we're proposing, I say it's 0 lot line, but actually in that portion of the lot, we are proposing, you can see on the plan, it's about a 1-foot setback from the building. And the reason that we're proposing that, it would likely be gravel that we would put in there, but my architect and my civil engineer were concerned that perhaps maybe there's a little encroachment on one side or the other, or it's just nice to have a little bit of a buffer rather than paving it all the way to the building. You'll also note that I did not put the knee wall alongside that building as well. It just goes up to the building and then continues from the rear of the building back. So in other words, there should be nothing directly against that building.
Yeah, I'm just asking, Commissioner, is there any required setback that there needs to be a variance to bring that all the way up to a foot of the side building there?
I would have to look at it, but I think setbacks usually refer to structures, don't they? And I don't know that
The parking lot.
would be a structure, but I could confirm that.
Let's take a note of
And
that.
I believe in all the planned districts, all the setbacks are as proposed in the development plan. So we figure all that out each time. Something to that effect.
That is correct. If you look up the table in the current prevailing zoning code, in the planned commercial district, it says as proposed in the development plan.
Great.
I do want to note that that's why I did call out, there is something in the section on parking that says you cannot have parking within 6 feet of a lot line. But in this particular case, that's not parking.
Okay. The setback on Columbus Street, 2 feet setback,
Mhm.
that goes extending into the cold water frontage, right?
Right.
You might want to just address that with the commission, what you're thinking there.
Yeah, why don't we, I'm going to head back over to the map, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
So again, when working with the village engineer and administrator, we're trying to accomplish everybody's goals, and we're trying to pack a lot into a very small lot. And so one of the things that's being proposed is that in order to pick up this last parking space here, we would also need the neighbor that is Kingfisher Cape LLC, which is in conjunction with Coldwater Consulting, to also agree to provide the 2 feet. We had an informal meeting with the neighbor. There's been no commitments as of now because we're not really 100% confident where everything on that property is. And so I've worked with Kristen to basically commission a survey to be done so that we can see exactly where everything on that facility lays out so that she can make the most educated decision for her business and for her property. But again, that in order to get that final space on the angle, we would need the 2 feet beyond the right-of-way in order to make that happen. There has been some discussion that if that neighbor did not grant that, or if Kristen did not grant that, what would we do in this space? And we've talked about potentially taking that last angled spot and maybe trying to do a parallel handicap place is what I think we discussed. So a parallel handicap spot in which the sidewalk would bend back, and then we wouldn't have to exceed the right-of-way allowance that we have. I just don't know how much engineering work went into that without the survey being done. But that is why I am proposing the development plan this evening contingent on my ability to then go forward with the village engineer and administrator to finalize these plans. Another key point that I want to point out here is that in the existing approved amended development plan, we're creating 5 spaces on West Street. There were 3 parallel spaces and 2 head-in spaces. In working with the neighbor that owns Coldwater Consulting, we've kind of determined that that was just a sketch. There really was no survey or backing behind any of that. So the 2 pull-in spaces I truly don't think are feasible. However, having said that, what we've also found is that West Street, I guess, is slated for improvements in 2027. And so Tom said that because they're going to be repaving that road anyways, it's possible that they can work out some of that spaghetti so that they can add 4 parallel parking spaces along West Street without any impact to the Coldwater facility, meaning that they would not need to exceed her lot line on that side at all. That is something else I want to point out in this development plan is that so in addition to the 8 down West Columbus Street, we are proposing to then actually commit and build the 4 on West Street, creating a total of 12 versus what was originally proposed.
So I did find the parking area setbacks in Article 26.02D. Except in single-family farm residential district, no parking lot or parking area shall be located nearer than 6 feet to the side or rear line of the tract on which the structure is located.
Correct.
So that would be either side or back, so we would need either a variance or divergence for the
So
zero light.
What Tom advised me, Tom and Mark, the village engineer and village administrator, is that since I'm getting a variance as 0 on-site parking, this is not a parking lot, it's a display lot, and thus that divergence is not necessary because it's not a parking space.
But would it be classified as a parking area? Because it specifies as a parking lot or parking area.
I'm just going off the advice I
Yeah.
received, but I did call it out in the development plan as I'm not trying to hide anything. So I did say, hey, this is the divergence I'm asking for. These are ones that I was told could be seen as divergences that I was advised may not need that divergence, but I'm not trying to shy away from it. That is my plan.
I would
so.
make the recommendation if we do allow it to specify it as a divergence.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, and we're not trying to surprise you either.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not.
I just found it.
When looking at the sketch, and you're not to scale.
Right,
necessarily.
exactly.
You know,
It's a
I just,
concept.
your neighboring, if we start getting a question from your neighbor about just how far up that, we should at least have it in.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. All good.
This, hey, Matt.
How are you, Seth?
Good. So this gray strip along Columbus Street, that's the That's the strip that you're donating to the village to expand that parking. Is that
2
right?
feet of that,
Is
correct?
that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The whole gray strip is actually 4 feet in width. I'm donating half of it. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
This is great, by the way. I, really
Thanks.
appreciate the multiple presentations. I think this is really creative, what you've
I
come up
really
with
liked
here.
it.
And I think that you came up with a solution that I don't think anybody had crossed our minds the last time we took a look at this, and you've done a great job, pretty clever.
Well,
Making it
kudos
work.
to the village as well. I could not have done it without a lot of support from the village and a lot of cube turning. It's been really a great experience so far, so thank you.
Well, we also get the parking on Harrison too.
No, so what I'm proposing with this plan is to actually, let's open that box, right? Because I think it's worth talking about. So what I'm proposing to do is instead of taking I think it was $5,000 index for inflation that was going to be developer contributed to the Harrison Street parking, what we've been talking about with Galena is no, I'm going to instead give the 2 feet of property for the angled parking and the sidewalk, but then I'm funding a significant portion of the parking down West Columbus Street. So that is not all on the village. What they told me is they said, hey, had we approved your driveway concept on West Columbus Street, which we're not going to do, then we need you to look at what the cost of building all of that infrastructure and improvements would have been, and we want you to contribute that to the project. The village would then cover anything over and above that. So our rough, I hate to throw numbers out, rough guess is that I'm probably covering about 40% of the cost of those parking improvements down Columbus Street. That, then I said is, hey, I'm all on board. Can we make that in lieu of the 5,000? It's significantly more than 5,000 on Harrison Street. And they said that seemed reasonable.
And you're also talking about the 4 parallel parking spots on the other side as well. Or no?
Technically, no. I mean,
Okay.
technically, those are, I'm going to be honest, those are on the village because it's a repaving project with the road. So they're just going to move the road and repave wider than where it was in order to create that.
So this question is probably more for the commission then. Should we consider, instead of the head-in lots on Columbus Street, just because it is already such a small lot, and taking 2 feet from that side of it just, makes it even smaller. So, if for whatever reason it's, in 10 or 15 years, not this business anymore, and somebody wants to come in and build something, like we've now hamstringed them with a smaller lot.
Right.
Could we, since the village is doing work on West Street anyway, move the head-in parking to that section?
To West Street,
Yeah.
I don't think
there's
we have enough
not
right
enough
of way
room.
Yeah,
on
so
either side of the road for anything other than some parallel.
Yeah.
And
I would love that.
to sort of address Seth's question, all the parking would be built at once, including the parallel spots on West Street. So his fee in lieu kind of applies to that kind of. It's all one big pool. Does that help? Okay.
It's a good question because it's been, last month, we talked a lot about the parking, right? And that is an issue, and the congestion down on Columbus Street's an issue, and I think that's a potential solution to help alleviate some of that. But I do believe Mark Ruffner looked at the possibility of doing it that way.
I believe it ultimately came down to the fact that the right-of-way for West Street is substantially narrower than the right-of-way that you currently enjoy on West Columbus Street. However, nudge, nudge, the property on the other side of West Street is owned by the city of Columbus. And so if there's some way to work that out.
Honey, that's like a step. That's like your ex-wife, okay?
Okay, all right, never mind. Just
It's put it a all back in the box and non-zeroed set it up. shot.
Matt, I don't want this recorded, by the way.
Okay, there you go. It's all good.
Can I ask you some questions about the business?
Yeah, I'll head back over here.
You're getting your steps in today.
All right.
Okay, so I don't know, this keeps cutting in and out. There we go. So you mentioned earlier that you've been doing this as a hobby for, you said, 20 years?
20 years, yep.
Is that a little bit more full-time since you sold your business? So,
Yeah.
Okay.
The big drive for me is that currently I can only take 5 cars into inventory myself. per year under the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles. You're only allowed to sell 5 cars per year for a profit unless you have a dealership license. You cannot obtain an automotive dealership license without a facility that meets certain requirements, lighting not one of them. But one of them is a facility with 3,500 square feet of showroom and or display lot. This facility, as proposed, is about 66 square feet above that. So I'm at 3,566, including the interior showroom of the building and then the asphalt lot. So this, to me, is critical to be able to expand the business. I am not full-time employed. I'm self-employed, semi-retired. And so this is my next venture. And so I intend to continue to grow it, but currently a little bit hamstringed by the fact that I can only do 5 cars in inventory. I can do as many on consignment as I want, but the consignment model is a little bit different.
So this allows your business model to increase.
Yes,
The venue of many
100%.
cars you want to without and be within taxes.
Yep,
Okay.
you got it, 100%.
And do you have a target of what you, like a growth plan for the business, moving from 5?
Yeah, so my hope is to get to about 5 a month, turning over about 5 vehicles a month or 60 vehicles a year. That's my goal.
And then what would you say, at least with your experience so far, is the average cost of one of those vehicles?
Average price point of the vehicles that I've been selling is probably in the low 30s. So I'd say like 30 to 33,000. Yeah. I mean, you have to understand, there's always exceptions to that, right?
Right.
That I like to talk about, but the average cost is in the low 30s.
Okay, and at that 5 vehicles a month, like say you get up and running, business is good, you're doing 5 vehicles a month, you're still planning for this to be open 4 to 8 hours a week by appointment only. Is that right?
So the dealership requirements are that you have 4 hours that are posted open, on the website or whatnot. I may increase those hours, but I enjoy a flexible working schedule, and so I don't want to just commit myself to it right out of the gate. But I intend to work there as much as the business demands or as much as I feel that I need to be there. It's not my intention to only be open the minimum amount, but out of the gate, that was my commitment.
There's one big question.
Yeah.
This is a community, which you know, right? We're friendly most of the time. Don't make us mad. But will you be part of the community? Like when we have our events and things like that, will you help contribute and be a part of it?
Yeah, I'm actually hoping that we can work together and have some like auto show days where we can shut down certain portions of the square and have big car shows and absolutely sponsoring other things.
Because we have
and-
like holidays and
Yeah,
things like that.
100%. And I believe, Mayor Jeff can attest to that, and Mayor Jill could before. Ever since I've owned the lot, I've always committed it at absolutely no charge to the village for whatever purposes. So it was used for Fall Fest. It was used for some various different signage things that they needed and other stuff like that. I don't intend to stop that. If anything, I intend to increase it.
So my guiding principle in just thinking about is this the right fit for the village is just, it goes back to our planned commercial article. And like the first sentence, I'll read it. I'm sure you've read it already. Galena recognizes that with increased urbanization and population growth comes increased demands for well-organized, non-residential commercial, which is what this is. But as areas to provide employment, goods, and services to area residents. And that's the part that's tripping me up a little bit. You're not bringing any employment to the village. You said you'll bring free air, which is nice, but as far as like, when I think about our village residents and having this take up our last spot of, buildable lot in the village, I don't feel personally that it's the best use of the space. We've seen commercial developments come through, and they're tight, but they kind of match what's across the street. 1, 2, 3 connected buildings, small businesses. I'd say that those are doing fine. How they are. So to say that the lot's too small to put anything on it, that's just not true. We've seen it. And so, I'm having trouble getting on board with it. And that's why I think about like when I talk to my neighbors and say, oh, we're building a car lot. Well, it's not open to the public. It's like right now, the only way to access it is, what do you say? It's a gated and locked access driveway, which is not a welcoming feature. It's keeping everybody out. If you want to talk to anybody, you have to make an appointment. Like it just doesn't feel to me to like a gathering place for, the community to come, bring their kids downtown, spend some money, have a meal or an ice cream cone or whatever it is. I appreciate, for our special events that you've, been willing to share that, but like, that's like once a year, so when I think about what we're going to hear from residents, like it doesn't seem like, it meets the needs of that first sentence to provide employment and goods and services to the area residents. And that's just where I'm having trouble. So if you can help me, that's fine. If I'm stuck there and I'm, an island of one, I'm used to that. That's okay. But, just.
Can I jump in and ask Matt on this, pulling on that a little bit?
Yeah, go for it.
That's
And I respect all opinions. And I think that's fair.
It's a very difficult little parcel to put something on, right? That's why there's nothing on it today. And I kind of envision it as a point of interest for the village going forward. But this, one of the things that Allison just raised is people having access to get in and look at what you have.
Right.
How are you proposing to make that easy for people to come in and out with a cup of coffee and just stop by?
So let's address a few things in light of the comments. So my goal is to make it a destination. Like, I really think it would be great that people can come down and get photographs. I'm hoping that one of the vending machines will be a soft serve ice cream vending machine. I've been doing a lot of research on those so that they will get an ice cream and walk around and check out the nostalgia to it. I'll be honest, the private access point on Middle Street was not my first request. My first request was on Columbus Street so someone could drive their classic car up into it. And the village made it very clear to me that that's not going to happen. And so I'm doing the best that I can with what the village has provided. It is a requirement by the village to lock and gate that access. That was not my idea. But in order to be able to grant that private access point on Middle Street, I have to hamper the amount of traffic that can come into it. So heard on that point, I agree with you. I don't think that those things are welcoming. I worked to try and work around that by putting in an 8-foot wide pedestrian stairs into the retaining wall directly in front of the parking. I also am sacrificing my own land for the parking in the village because I really do believe that that's what the village needs, is more available parking when on a Friday and Saturday night everybody is busy. But my proposal is that people are going to be able to park into those angled spaces, walk up those steps, grab something from the vending machine, check out the gas pumps, look at the old sign, take some selfies. And I really do think that people that are automotive related are going to drive to see these. I mean, there's a lot of websites out there that look for vintage service stations as a point of interest. So I think it will drive some traffic. Can you measure the economic impact of that? No. Are you correct that I could go ahead and build what's already approved with the 3,585 square feet? Yes. I did get a proposal from a construction company to do that. The sticker price is about $1.6 million. I am a real estate investor. I own several properties. I've done a couple of neighborhoods and other developments. And unfortunately, the cap rate doesn't pay here. I can't get enough return on my $1.6 million to make that type of a project feasible. Otherwise, I would build it and put cars in it, right? But or put other businesses in it to offset the cost. Currently, with what I'm proposing to build on the site and the costs that come from the retaining wall and the parking and the brick and everything that's required in the village, I'm not making my required real estate returns. I have agreed to make it up in passion, right? So I get to drive a bunch of things that I'll enjoy. And that is, I believe, why we got here. In all the notes that I've dug through from the prior developers, I was given a thumb drive. I dug through it once I started to do the public records requests. They had for lease signs. The 2008 approved development had 5 retail spots. Granted, not the best time in the world, but they tried to lease it and they couldn't. In 2012, they changed it so that they could sell off the house to be converted into an office building, and they sold that house for $155,000 in 2012. Today, again, the construction costs just keep increasing, and the type of businesses that would be able to be viable there, I don't think could afford the rent. That is why I ended up with the conclusion that I ended up with and said, hey, you know what? I think this will work. I'm not denying that it won't necessarily provide goods and services to everybody within the village, but I think you have a lot of people outside of the village too that spend a lot of their money, just like myself, that will be my customers. I mean, that's the big reason I chose Galena, and I didn't go to a 1 acre large, much easier site, is that I wanted an iconic location on the square in an area that supported my demographics, and your village and the surrounding areas support the demographics of my customers. And so that's why I'm looking here.
I believe the other opposite of this, because if you put a shiny object out there, people are going to come, they're going to spend money, they're going, and you and I discussed this beforehand. Putting like a 1950s car out there, it's made of plastic like McDonald's. You can sit in there and take pictures, and possibly putting the garage doors on this side of Columbus Street so you can open them and people can see things. I think you'll make more money and have less traffic. And people in the business will make more money because this will be a destination. And like Tallulah's is up for sale right now. That's going to be a business. And I don't think we need more. We don't need a business that's going to have more traffic, like ice cream shop or something, because then you have children running around. But I think this reflects it accents the buildings that are there. The lot cannot be used for much. And I believe bringing them there, it's like businesses, they have something here, but they're taking your money here. Okay, that's how it works. That's business. And so I think you're going to be a destination. I think Galena will be put on the map. I think it's going to make it, you hate this word quaint, but I think it's going to be more nostalgic. And I think it's good. I personally like it because it fits the downtown.
And I support those comments. I appreciate those comments, and I agree. The other thing that I think is key to note is it's not competitive to anything in the village either. So if I were to open up a restaurant and bar, I owned a barbecue restaurant for 7 years. I could turn it into a barbecue restaurant and put it right there on the square. But now I'm actually stealing business away from those other restaurants, and I'm creating a parking headache that I don't think I could fix.
And you'd only have 2 employees.
Well, yeah.
Maybe.
So I look at this would be one of the, I guess if you classify all of the businesses on the square as an attraction, not all attractions to view them or I guess indulge in them, you don't have to spend money. That's how I'm looking at this. This is to Allison's point. Residents will be able to, if this parking lot has like a full roster of these like old luxury cars or old historic cars or whatever you want to call them, it'll be just something to see, and will just like the baseball diamond, it'll bring in people that'll use the restaurants or just walk around town because you realistically have to get out of your car and then walk to look at the stuff. And then to follow up, the rest of the 1801 purpose is, as well as provide balanced economy within the village, the district also intended to promote a variety and flexibility of planned commercial and office district. I'm backtracking. Is intended to promote a variety and flexibility of land development for commercial purposes that are necessary to meet these demands while still preserving and enhancing the health, safety, and general welfare of the inhabitants of Galena, Ohio. Well, with this development plan, it's also you're getting multiple safety improvements just throughout the whole one stretch of road. So
Well, like you said, it's these commercial purposes are necessary to meet these demands, the demands of employment, goods, and services to the area residents. So I appreciate it. I hope I'm wrong, and I know that it's going to be beautiful, and I appreciate the hobby. I have one myself, but I also think I'm in a unique position. I have one, so I know. And I worked in the business for 7 years with Haggerty. I'm not a newbie, and I'm not uneducated about the subject. I just think about, does it provide what our residents need? Like something, it's a nice shiny object, and maybe we'll get some people from outside the village, and I hope that we do, and I hope that they visit our restaurants. I'm just still stuck on that.
Understood.
Right.
Well, and I hope you'll think of me when you ever decide to trade your solstice. Then I'd be happy to help you with it.
I'll tell you the same thing I tell my husband, just don't mention it.
Okay, understood.
Any other questions for Matt? I do need to update the commission on the other to-do I had. Any other questions for Matt right now? Okay. You will recall that we had, on this whole parking discussion and access discussion, we were curious of whether or not we could do that access off of West Street, okay? And the issue there is the Fountain Insurance Building owns that access point, right? And so I was given the to-do of trying to locate Mr. Fountain and have a discussion with him, which I did. It was tough for me to find him. I've eventually caught up with him on last Saturday. So on Valentine's Day, we had a 2-hour discussion. It was great. Bottom line is he is willing to allow us to put together a sketch diagram, kind of like what we just saw on the screen, with a different access point, different parking. Based on this discussion here, I don't have a huge issue with the one we just saw. So the question is for commissioners, do we continue to pursue that? Is there value in pursuing that, or do you feel pretty comfortable with what the engineers have come up with so far?
Can you put the proposed site plan back up so they can see, and I can point out what I think?
In
you
my
might be talking
opinion, if he's willing to entertain a sketch, I think that's the best way to go. Just make it clean around the front of it, to eliminate the access. I mean, if it's not necessary, and we could come in, because there's already the driveway there, there's already parking there. We're just asking that, for 5 cars a month, you might drive a vehicle through his driveway. Like, I think it's
Yeah,
worth at least asking.
There's a lot of hurdles that we'll have to address through engineering. Things like buildings being
We've already
150
committed
years
to
old and having
engineering
systems
plans.
running off the back of the buildings and old septic tanks and things of that nature. All that has to be kind of looked at and thought through by the engineering team. But,
a couple of other
go ahead.
comments I want to make. So the lot lines are actually on this proposed plan. You can see here that my lot line comes up here, comes through the back and comes over. Coldwater, or Kingfisher Cape, connected to Coldwater, owns this particular lot here. I believe what you're proposing, Jeff, is that we come up this back kind of access alley that he has, and then make the turn down this side. What this plan does not show is that this is only 18 feet, and there's only 5 feet of that is taken up by concrete pads and the air conditioning and utilities that his facility has. And so I really question the turning radius coming from the back proposed area into 13 feet across without having to consume some of Kingfisher Cape or
So
Coldwater's
it's 13
property.
feet, and you said there's concrete pad on one side, but what's on the other?
Yeah, so
What's
down
on the other side?
Yeah, down this back side of his property, right here, he has a large concrete pad that projects 5
Right.
feet
What's
from
on the
here.
other side?
On the other side over here?
Nope,
I
nope. Towards
I
like
don't remember.
Coldwater. There's nothing on the other side. There's no.
Oh, down here?
Now turn right.
Right here?
Yep.
Oh,
That.
correct. This is all grass. This is green space.
So it's
for
it's
Coldwater
open
today.
13
Yes,
feet.
correct. Yep.
And how is 13 feet bigger than what you're proposing on
Yeah,
the
we're
private
only
access?
proposing 12 feet here, but you have to remember that that can be 12 feet because we have so much depth coming from the road for the turning radius. It's not the actual 13 feet that bothers me. It's the turning radius from here to here in less than 21 feet.
And how long is a Catalina convertible?
A lot longer than that.
I know, I had it.
The old cars take a lot. You're 100% right, Michelle. Those old Cadillacs can be 20 feet, so, but again, I'm not opposed to that. I like what's proposed best, if I'm being honest, because it does not require me to have easements with a neighbor. It doesn't require me to figure out maintenance agreements, subsequent uses. I like my neighbors today, but I don't think that they're going to be my neighbors for as long as what I hope to own the property. And so my preference is what's proposed here. That said, I will collaboratively work with the village to explore whatever concepts you guys feel are best for the village from that standpoint.
And from a planning and zoning standpoint, I think it would be wise for the village to investigate all options for the property.
That's why I bring it back to the commission. I took the first step. I told you I would do that. I don't have any heartburn with this plan. The question is, would we want to see another offering that comes off of West Street? And I'm open to doing that. It's kind of up to what you guys want to do. I think Allison already weighed in.
13 feet to take one of these big old cars is not, it will not, it won't make the turn. But it's bigger than 12. But 12 is straight in. You're not doing a turn. Well, because when you're going, okay. No, but you're going straight into a straight. You're not making a turn like this. Making around
it's the fact that there's no parking on Middle Street, so that when you come to make that turning radius, you're not clipping anything. If Norm does provide the easement, it's a complete 90 degree, and the way his easement works, I need a curve, which means that I would have to get things. Not saying that they wouldn't. It's just yet another step. Again, I'm not opposed to exploring it. My question would be is if you're okay with what's being presented and you're okay with an option on West Street, is there any reason not to move forward contingent on one of those options being selected?
My thought is I would defer to the developer in this case, Mr. Hollis, and if he's okay with this, I would just go with that. I think ideally you come in off the other side, which is what we're kind of talking about right now, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be trying to jam something in that really doesn't work.
Yeah, and on that point, I don't understand why they're asking you to turn left. I'd have to understand that better.
Yeah, I
It
don't
seems
have
to
problems
me it's a
turning right.
safer turn to
I'm-
turn right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff. I thought about that earlier, and I thought right turns are always easier.
Yeah.
So making you turn left across traffic seems like the opposite of what we'd want you to do.
Yeah. One thing, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but if we had a higher intensity development there, it would cause us more problems. The fact that it's going to be retainer walled and private entrance, if Mr. Hollis ever does sell it to somebody else, it kind of sets the bar already that we won't have to deal with some high intensity development going in there. But that's just a thought.
Yeah, if anybody on zoning wants to go to Water Street and try to turn left onto Walnut, you'll understand exactly the problem, which I
Not
do
an
every
easy
day.
thing.
No, I do every day. So.
All right, so I got two people have weighed in whether we pursue the West Street. Zach, where are you at with that?
I think this Middle Street alternative is a pretty good alternative to coming out on West Columbus.
All right,
I
Michelle?
don't see coming out on West Street as a feasible option, because you'd have to get one or two neighbors to give easements to allow
That's true.
this to occur.
That's true. Michelle, you have a thought on that?
Again, a Catalan converter is not going to make that turn.
Okay. All right, so I'm not going to pursue that any further. So what you have in front of you is what's being proposed. Do we have any more questions for Mr. Hollis? I do not. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hollis.
Yeah, so then to continue, I had one other follow-up that we didn't address, and so can I go ahead and address that follow-up? Okay, so I did address the May development plan, that was certified by Ken Molnar as approved. The driveway entrance, we've spent a lot of time discussing that. Public facilities, I shared with the parklet and the air, the things that we're attempting to do there. The last thing that I had on there was the preservation of the brick building. And so I went ahead and I did some additional homework on this in between the last meeting and now, just to try to make sure that I'm doing as much due diligence as I can on the preservation of it. So if you can go to the PowerPoint, I just want to show, I went ahead and took photographs of all sides of the building on the exterior, and then also all sides of the building on the interior, just to be able to show the commission members. And then were you able to forward, Matt, the additional information with respect to the quotes that I got on the brick building to the zoning commission? If not, I have printed copies to disperse. Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, so before I do this, so what we got is it's an old phone switching station. The exact construction, according to the auditor, is estimated to be about 1950. This is the front of the building. Go ahead and give me the next slide. Side one of the building. Next slide. Side two of the building. Next slide. Rear of the building. Let's go ahead and go inside. What it is on the inside is it's just a concrete floor. There's painted brick on the inside. It is actually a double-walled brick, so you can kind of tell from this window. There's some better pictures here as we move on, but we won't move on just yet. That it's actually two brick walls with a gap in the center. There is some form of a flat roof on top. There is some question as to whether that flat roof contains asbestos or not. There's also some question as to whether the beautiful paint is lead-based paint or not. Those are both things that I have not identified or verified as of yet, but rest assured that if either of those, I have demolished structures containing those before we would get the full inspections and requirements that we would need to if it went that way. If it went for preservation, I think we could look at encapsulation, et cetera, if that did test affirmative. I really am not confident that it is, but nonetheless. Next slide. Yeah, side view pic. Next slide. So I did, from the prior owner, there's been some damage to this window, but that prior owner was able to procure the glass block exactly the same from eBay. So I do have a box of those blocks that could be used to finish that window over. It would take some masonry work here in order to fix that. Next slide. Then this would be the entranceway. All of the wiring in the building, if there was to be any use for any type of a wiring, would need to be replaced. None of it's decoder standard, and most of it's been abandoned for some time. Next slide. So what you can see here is that the double-walled structure. I think that's a rodent home, but nonetheless, double-wall structure, brick on both sides with the gap in the center. But the big thing that I'm trying to point out from this photograph is that I went ahead and I called 3 different masons to come out and give me an expert opinion on the facility. And what I asked them to do is I said, number 1, I want to know what the type of brick is that was used to make it. And then number 2, I want to know if we could deconstruct it in a way that brick could be repurposed. My thought was in the parklet or something around there as a patio. Unfortunately, only one of them got back to me. 2 of them said they don't do that without any type of a contract for the actual work. But the one that got back to me was Firestone Masonry out of Westerville, Ohio. So big plug to Jeff Enoch, the owner, who went out in the middle of the snowstorm to get this evaluation done for me today. And so I'll just go ahead and read this, and then I can pass it down so that you guys can take a look. He says, "Hi, Matthew. I was able to look at the building today after inspecting it. The bricks are hollow, so they wouldn't be suitable for any type of walkway or horizontal surfaces." I then called him after he sent this because I didn't understand that. And what he said is that when you have hollow holes in a brick, which is what we've got in this particular structure, he said when you lay them down to use the flat side as a patio, moisture gets in there, it freezes, it thaws, and it basically disintegrates the brick. Being that it's already of age, he was fearful that it would last very long. He says, so that was not an email, that was via phone call. Also, I believe you would lose close to 90% of the brick during demolition, so it wouldn't be economical to try and save them. Based on that, I think a straight demo would be the best course of action. Let me know your thoughts. Best regards, Jeff. I do want to note that Firestone Masonry does not perform demolition services. I worked very hard to make sure that I found companies that didn't have a conflict of interest. That's the first thing. Yes. So then what I did is I said, okay, well, if we can't take it apart and preserve it, maybe we can move it. And so I reached out to Clear Structural Moving out of Wellington, Ohio. And essentially what he did is he submitted an email with a quote for what it would cost in order to move the brick building from the facility down to Miller Park. I asked all of them, I just hypotheticalized and said, hey, if we were to pick up this structure and we were to move it to Miller Park to put along the bike path or use in some capacity, what would that take? Thank you for getting a hold of me. We could definitely do that move. However, it will not be inexpensive. The move itself, I would say, would be somewhere between the $40,000 to $50,000 neighborhood. You might be able to get it below 40, but I sure wouldn't be certain of that as far as giving you a ballpark. I'm going to guess its height is about 12 feet, perhaps. We're going to need to add about 5 feet or so to that. So you would be up into wires, signs, lights, trees, perhaps an overpass, depending on what other things might be in the way. That's not a tall building by any means, but if there's enough in the way, it could still be a problem. The cost for removal of any obstructions can be astronomical. If you're talking about the primary electric lines, we have to miss those by 10 feet so that they would be 27 feet, and there's almost for certain going to be primaries in the way. They would have to insulate them or shut them off depending on their preference so that we can pass by. Anyway, I'd be glad to talk with you further about it, but that's my guess without any more information. So that was Clear out of Wellington. So I never like to just stop with one. So I called 2 more companies just to get an opinion. One declined to respond and said that they don't move structures that small. But the one that was the most promising was Dinghy Movers out of Zanesville, Ohio. And basically what he did is he called me on the phone and he said that it is absolutely possible to move the structure. He said that they would need to stabilize it on the outside, on the inside, and that their proposal would essentially be to go underneath of the slab and basically try to pick the entire structure up once stabilized, and then move it from there. And so I will not read his entire scope of work, but based on his rough estimate, he thought that he could have that moved from that lot to Miller Park for $25,000.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You have two walls and they're hollow, right? So they're going to have to
That is
wrap the
correct.
entire thing and inside because they're going to be very flexible for
Correct.
that thing to be moved. Okay, number one. Number two, how stable is the building? You know, if you're moving something to the park, how stable is it? What's it going to cost Galena to stabilize that building? I mean, I'm talking about the gap, the structure, the masonry is going to be crumbling. And if you have asbestos on top of it, we need to know what the cost is going to be to bring that up to code. And what are you going to put in there that's worth that $100,000?
I didn't get those quotes. Yeah, I was really more so looking about it as the fact of like, what are some options? And I wanted to provide some information and some data so that you guys can make the best decision. I will still stand on what I said at the last meeting, which is that if the village would like the structure, I am happy to donate that structure to the village. I'm also going to take it a step further in this meeting and commit that if the village does want that structure, I will also donate what it would have cost me to demolish it to the village towards whatever efforts you guys would like. To me, it's not a monetary play one way or the other, but I did want to provide the data.
I want to thank you for doing that legwork and reaching out and contacting all the companies. I have no idea, if it's worth it or not. It's just a question that I have a heart for preservation, so I had to ask, and I know you do too,
I do
from your
too,
previous business. So I would assume, Michelle, that the companies are smart enough to include stabilization in their quote. So we would have to take their quote as what it is, and it's probably not up to this commission to make that judgment. So I appreciate the information.
Yeah, well, like I said, I wanted to at least present that.
Yeah, let me second that, and just thank you for the due diligence on that. Yeah, appreciate that very much. And just for the commission's sake, for a decision like that would fall on council because there's a financial impact to it. So I think the fact that for this commission, Mr. Hollis has offered to donate the building, then I think it becomes a question of what council would want to do that or not. And I was hoping it would be Galena brick or something like that. That'd be more interesting. But-
Yeah, as best as I can tell, it's not, unfortunately. Oh, is it?
With the holes
Oh,
in
I
it?
didn't see. Oh, I didn't know that. It just does, it's not the iconic
It's just not the
one that
sand
says
molds.
Galena in the center. There you go.
Do we need to bring you up to the mic, Mr.
Yeah,
Hopper?
you might want to come up to the mic if you're going to explain all the intricacies of sand molds.
Yeah. We need to get this recorded.
Sand molds versus extruded. Too passionate about
Tom
brick.
Hopper, 275 Harrison Street. Yes. Okay, so, yes, so most of the millions and millions and millions of brick that were made in Galena were extruded brick, which are the ones with the holes in it. There's different things. I would seriously doubt that if that was built in 1950 that it was not Galena brick. Because anybody would have just gone up the street to get the brick. That's how they would have done it. Also, you were talking about using them on the ground. Even if those brick in the walls did not have the course through the center, you would not be suitable to put them on the ground. There's a completely different ASTM standard for ground contact brick than what you put in a wall. So, but yeah, you can hold a masonry building together for moving it. Genoa Township just moved their historic township hall to McNamara Park, and it moved just fine. It's just very expensive, and because it makes it much heavier, harder to move, and the fact that you have to hold it together. So it's a very big issue to do that. But yeah, that's the things on the brick. Yes. And I know that because, again, my family, I worked at the brick plant for 15 years, so that was my thing for a long time. So thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Matt, we've kept you over an hour. You've done a great job.
Oh, no problem.
Any other questions from the commission? Do we,
The only thing I will add is there's still engineering in progress on the entrance from, let me get the street right, Middle Street, is that what it is?
Middle Street.
The private entrance. So it's like you said, it's strictly a concept right now. So it's not like we work through it and this is all 100% good to go right at the moment. So still some stuff to figure out, but it's just the latest concept. So I wanted that out there.
Which
So-
is why I did make the plan contingent,
Yes.
you know,
So-
on that. And I think, again, hearing the feedback tonight, I want to talk to them about why we're not turning right instead of left.
If I read between the lines a little bit here, the fact that we've made a decision, I think we're fully supportive of the current sketch plan. So it sounds like it gives you the opportunity to go and finalize everything now with that in mind. And if whatever changes our next meeting, you can come back and review those changes, and we should be ready to hopefully give you a decision by that point.
Can I ask a self-serving question?
Yeah, of
Mayor?
course.
So if those are the only changes that we're looking at, are those changes swaying any of the commission members one way or another on their vote on the concept? Is there a reason that it couldn't be voted contingent on me working that out with Tom and Mark, you know, off to the side so that I can run it in
Yeah, I
parallel?
think we could. Yeah, I think we could do that if people are comfortable up here. We don't have any other questions, so I think the next step is to close the open hearing. So let me ask the commission for a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Second
second.
motion and Seth second. I think we need to, Lauren, if you want to do the roll call.
Seth,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Okay, this hearing has been closed as of 8:12 PM. Okay, based on what we just heard, and we do have some additional work that has to be done, and based on those contingencies and those issues, is anybody comfortable with going ahead and approving tonight?
I think we need to state for the record the contingencies that will be
Yeah,
considered.
Can we state for the record what those are? Do we have those documented? That's a good point. I know one is to make sure that we have the right proper setback on the parking lot itself. If you want to start recording
So
that.
I think we do need clarifications on whether or not the commission wants certain divergences listed or not. We did talk about the parking area or display lot or what have you being one of those divergences. So I'll have to think of the best way to word all of this here for a
Well,
second. But
what I would suggest, and Allison, please help out here. Coming into tonight, there was a set of divergences that were requested. Those are documented. Can we just read those into the record?
I think there's only one from those original three, and I don't remember if the parking was one or not. I think actually it was one, and we crossed it out, so maybe it's just keeping that divergence.
If you read the divergence section, I did state all three, but I stated that only one was officially being requested. The other two were kind of defaulting to the commission.
I mean, do we know what page that's on?
Appendix 3, 4, 5, 6.
It's not appendix, it's the,
No, it's in the actual proposal on page.
before the appendix.
Okay, it's on page 12, item K. You can't count 12 pages because it's double-sided the same paper. Anyways, it's the page 12 of the actual.
It's number 12.
It's item K.
So the first one is just saying it's a divergence to create any parking. So that's the Article 26E. 2602C is for the private access. D is for the display lot with the zero. Okay, so I think D is the one you're talking about.
yes.
So it's listed.
It's already listed, yes.
Well, it's not listed as a divergence, so I think it's just changing that wording to request it as a divergence.
So Article 26-02D.
Oh, no, it is. The following
that the one?
divergence is
Yes,
being
that is-
requested to
that is
Article.
the one.
Yeah, it's already
Yeah,
listed in there.
It's already in there. So that one is in there.
That
So we have those three divergences. And so I guess what we're suggesting is if the zoning commission is comfortable in approving this tonight based on those divergences being addressed.
What were the other follow-up things that
um,
we were going to look at?
So follow-up one was divergence on the asphalt pavement here,
Mhm.
we just discussed. Follow-up two is that I get to an approved parking concept around West Columbus Street and West Street that results in a development of agreement with the village of Galena. And that would spell out costs, how it's shared, what it looks like, et cetera. And then concept three is the private access point and how it's limited, how it's structured.
And the turnout of it.
Yes.
Okay. You have those captured, Matt?
And by all means, I'm not pushing a little bit, like, I don't
There you
know,
are.
push it.
That's
It doesn't
okay.
need to be pushed.
You're allowed.
That's what I
Um,
want to hear. Thank you.
Can I just give my 2 cents? I think we should just tidy these things up, document the changes, let Matt Schock do his work, and then come back in the next meeting and then we can vote on it. That's just how I feel about it. And then, because he's got some drawing polishing to do as well. And I don't want to approve something where, hey, we actually changed a couple things here and then maybe somebody objects to that. That's just how I feel.
We have 30 days from now to give a decision, yeah, according to code. Please.
Yes. Tom Hopper, 275 Harrison Street. What the items you're talking about now are very similar to when you prove a development, and you have the development plan, you have all the drawings. Final engineering is not done until you approve the development plan. What these items, like the exact nature of the driveway, and the shape of this, the shape of that, those are normally handled as an engineering matter after your approval. Your development plan would be passed contingent upon acceptable engineering work, just as when you approve a subdivision. So we've had subdivisions before they came back and go, oh, we have to move the road over here a few feet because we found something here, we can't put the road where we thought we could on the drawing. That doesn't undo the approval of the development plan. So you could technically pass this now. You've got the divergence like on the pavement and stuff like that, which you need. But you can put in there that, assuming you have an acceptable solution or final design of the access point and the things like that.
So what you're saying is we could pass it as is
Yes.
without a contingency of engineering because that's already built into the process.
It's always
There's
assumed that
always final
because
engineering.
nobody pays for their final engineering until after their plan's done. It's like right. So the big developments like you've seen, you didn't see, like the Romanelli development at Arrowhead. You haven't seen the final engineering yet.
No.
So you haven't seen all those details about this driveway is going to be here and this curb's going to be exactly here. Those designs were never even envisioned because nobody spends that money, and I'm sure Mr. Hollis doesn't
Yeah,
want to spend.
they give you a rough draft.
Correct.
And then depending on
Correct.
how the site changes or
Right.
how certain things
So-
progress, certain
Right.
values
So-
change.
So you can add a thing in there that this passing is contingent upon, acceptable final engineering work, like technically it should be on all your approvals. And you can go on from there. If you or he runs into an engineering issue, like on the driveway or something, they can always come back and say, well, we envisioned this, but now we found out we can't do this. They can come back and do things. It doesn't nullify what you're doing, okay? But you don't necessarily have to hold him up based upon an engineering issue, which would not have been even done yet in most projects.
Yeah, and we have another step. This has to go in front of council as the next step as well. So.
I don't believe that's true, though, is it? Because it's
I
not a
think we
rezoning.
do. Hmm?
It's not a rezoning.
But it's an amended
It's an
development plan.
amended development.
But that's not a rezoning. But rezonings go to council. You're not changing the zoning. Unless Mr. Molnar says you have to do it, it's not
I
a rezoning.
believe per the code, since it's a
Substantial.
substantial change, it
I'd
has to go
prefer
through the
that we
full
did
process.
That's fine.
anyway,
I'm just saying.
Just
all right.
because, just for
Okay.
the partnership we have
Yeah.
established, let's not forget, the
think-
commission is actually
pointed that out.
established by council.
I
Right,
think-
so
I
we're
think
an
you
arm of
pointed that
council.
one out.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll get it in front of, this will allow us to get it in front of council faster.
Which is what everybody does, because the engineering is the expensive part when you get to engineering.
I'm happy to make a motion to adopt and pass this one. If we have a second.
I'll second.
And to be clear, this is a motion to recommend approval.
Recommend approval
council.
to council,
Yes.
contingent upon the, resolution of the variances
Yep.
that we have.
With all divergences
Yeah.
and
Correct.
all that.
So
So if you want to,
second?
if you want to lay that out officially, go ahead.
We, go ahead. You want to take the roll,
Mhm.
Lauren?
Do we have a second? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Michelle.
Michelle,
Okay,
second.
sorry.
Seth?
What am I voting on?
We're voting to pass it through.
I'm going to vote no.
Okay.
Zach?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Allison?
No.
Michelle?
Yes.
Thank you all. Mr. Hollis, you can get to work. That's right. Okay. Moving on. Do we have any other, we've had a lot of guest comments already. Anybody else? All right. We have the minutes from January 26th. Has the commission had a chance to review the minutes? Any question about those minutes?
There's a typo, Matt, on number 6, new business. You, in the second paragraph, you have it noted as a 1,040 square foot building, and it's, or 2,000, you have it as 2,040, it should be 1,040.
I do the minutes.
Oh, Lauren.
I was just going to say, for once, this number's not my fault. I am
Other
guilty
than
of
that,
many
it's
number
fine.
errors, though.
I did want to comment on, you mentioned on the last page, because one of the actions, again, that was my third action from the last meeting, which was to, there was concern about the lighting at the entrance of Miller Farm entrance and the church entrance. So I have spoken to AEP. I said I would do that. We have a meeting with AEP on March 3rd. I've given them the heads up that we'd like to have lights installed on the poles, so we'll get an idea of what price and how we move forward on that. But I did follow up on that and let you know. With the change that Allison recommended, do we have a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make a motion.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are passed. Okay, moving on to other business. I just want to make one other comment about, and then the other business, and then we're going to talk about Galena Commons and 70 North Walnut Street. We had worked through all of last year, our code changes, and we bundled those all up and presented those to council. They did pass those through in their last meeting, just so you know those were passed. All right. Allison, I'm going to give the floor to you on Galena Commons.
I'll give it to Matt
I'm sorry, I was.
to present on the Galena Commons. Do you have information?
So, I thought.
So I can just give a little background.
Yes, please do.
So driving by, I noticed that Journey Church is now Galena Commons, and so I was just looking that up on the internet to see what that meant, and just raised the question of whether it is still operating as a church, which is acceptable in an R2, or if it's more of a commercial property because now it's requiring leases for businesses that's renting office space, and whether we should request a change in zoning to commercial. And I think that's kind of all my question was, and I don't know if, Matt, you've had a chance to look at that at all.
Well, I did reach out to Jerry Funston, who's
that's right,
kind of
yes.
the person, and I did follow up your email with
I
information
did read
he
that, and
provided.
I appreciated him doing the homework and me not having to. So it sounds like the research is done, and
Yeah, so you do have this on in front of you. I think it's good to have that discussion so that we're kind of communicating on these things. After reading this, my assessment of it is, doesn't rise to the level of being concerned about what he's doing in there. And I think he did a pretty good job of, taking us through. He would have been here tonight to talk to us, but he had a conflict. If you want him to come in next month, he's more than happy to come in and talk about it. But I'm satisfied with what he sent us. Okay, all right.
That was the email I was searching for over here, so thank you.
All right, zoning report, Matt?
Before we do that, speaking
Sure.
of email, do you have Mr. Hollis's building preservation emails that you could forward to us just so that we have that information?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I should have asked if there's any other business or any other comments from the commission. Okay. All right, Matt, zoning
Just-
report.
Just a moment, I'm making a note of my to-do here. All right. In the major subdivisions section up at the top, there's been a few more parcels in permitting for Miller Farm. They've really been moving along with the ones that are currently in progress. So you're going to start seeing a lot of grading as-built being added to the report each month. The way I have this set up is that every zoning permit that comes through basically means the lot is started. Every sewer tap inspection or sewer permit that you see there means that construction's underway. And then when they get their grading as built at the end, that means they're pretty much done and they're going for their final inspection with Delaware County. So as you can see, we have a lot of lots that have just kicked off in the process with all the zoning permits there. And then we've had a few in the last month that have officially started construction, meaning they've dug the basement and the sewer line is installed. And then we just had a couple get their as-built approved, and I signed the inspection card for Delaware County. And I gave you also a little update of the Planning and Zoning Department for 2025 by the numbers. We approved 121 zoning certificates. That's a little bit of a fuzzy number because we're still working to approve the Arrowhead redevelopment, which is technically a zoning application number. But I stopped it at the 2025 permit numbering. So, like, for example, Mr. Hollis's project is not on the list for 2025, even though it kind of started in 2025. 91 grading permits were issued, 91, yeah. What did I say? 91 grading permits, 93 sewer permits, and 47 right-of-way permits. Most of the zoning, grading, and sewer permitting was centered around Miller Farm, as you all know. Much of the right-of-way permitting was related around Columbia Gas service line installs, also in Miller Farm, and then repairs around the area. And then a big chunk of that was also the Alta Fiber and Brightspeed right-of-way projects, which are sort of kind of in progress, but we all know there's issues there that we're all working out. And then also we did approve the Romanelli and Hughes plan. I'm just waiting for their final check to come in, which I think I actually did send that out this week. A lot of it's running together. I'm sorry. I have that on next month's report, so because it was before the deadline for this one. But either way, we're down to basically the fee payment and issuing all the approvals, so we're there. And then for major projects, the village built a new maintenance building. We did some renovations on Village Hall. We completed the resurfacing of Harrison High and Church Streets, and we also began a pavilion project in Miller Park, which should be finished sometime here in 2026. So things are moving along well. If you have any questions, feel free to fire them my way. I kind of breezed through this one today.
I do have one or two.
Sure.
1792 Old 3C Highway, Red House.
Yes.
That annexation's complete now?
From what I understand, the annexation is complete. It's just not showing on the auditor's website yet, but sometimes that takes time for the map room to get everything finalized. If you like, I can check in with them and make sure. But
I would appreciate that,
Yep.
because we're trying to get council to make a decision on the red house, so. Yeah. But I've been told it's done, but it, like you said, it's not showing up on the auditor site. That's all I have.
Mr. Hopper, did I mess up any numbers for you today?
I don't know the numbering system you got for how you do the permits.
I'll show you sometime. It's advanced. It's not.
All right, any other questions for Matt? All right, our next meeting is scheduled for March 18th at 7 PM. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second.
Absolutely.
Zach and Michelle, all in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we've adjourned at 8:33 PM.